Good morning, boys and girls. We are on to chapter 31 in Swindle. So here we go. Two chapters left, this one, and tomorrow we will do 32. So let's see if Juvie is in Mr. Bing's future. 3 a.m. A black-clad figure opened the Bing's back door and stepped onto the patio. Staying in the shadows, he made his way down the street through yards, hopping fences and squeezing through hedges. At the end of his block, he allowed himself the luxury of the sidewalk, but kept well away from the streetlights. The windows were dark, the roads deserted. He could see it now in the gloom, a quarter mile up the avenue. Every day on the way to school, he had passed this spot and made a point of not looking at it. Not yet, not under the prying eyes of the police. But tonight, no one was watching. It was only Griffin Bing, and he had hoped, George Herman, Babe Ruth. The debris was gone, but the stone foundation of the old Rockford house glowed stark whitish gray in the moonlight. At the curb stood the only part of the mansion that escaped the wrecking ball, the mailbox, rusting on its post. As he reached for the little door, Griffin observed his hand shaking. What if it isn't there? What if some sensible postal carrier had refused to deliver to a house that was obviously demolished? No, the flag's up. It's been up for 3 days. There's mail in there. My mail. He drew out the contents of the box and stared. A free month of Netflix. Wait, there was another envelope, a smaller one. $1 million letter. He tore it open and dropped the Babe Ruth card into his hand. The floodlights were so sudden, so blinding, that he was frozen in place like a butterfly on a pin. Detective Sergeant Vizzini stepped out of the glare and snatched the collectible from his hand. In that moment, Griffin understood that the eyes on the back of his neck had been real after all. Vizzini spoke the words Griffin had been dreading for 6 days. You are under arrest. They didn't lock him in a cell. They didn't lock him up at all. He sat on a hard wooden chair in the middle of the squad room while Vizzini pounded out a report on a manual typewriter that must have been 100 years old. He knew he was in big trouble, though, because every single officer on the night shift came by to have a look at the kid who took down a house with the Ultra-Check alarm system and 2 guard dogs and made off with $1 million prize. Caught. Just the words made him shudder. In a plan like this, so many factors were at play, but caught was always rock bottom. The worst thing that could have happened had just happened. There was no countermove for this, no recovery. This was major disaster. How many times had he told himself that it really wasn't stealing, that the card was rightfully belonged to him? Here in the police station, he realized that argument wasn't going to work for 5 seconds. Griffin had always tried to stand up against adults pushing kids around. But now, under arrest, he had put himself more at the adult's mercy than ever before. What was next? Trial? Conviction? Juvenile detention? It really could go down that way. It was no joke. His one consolation was that he was sitting here alone and that Ben was not beside him, about to share his fate. Ditto, Pitch, Savannah, Logan, Melissa, even Darren. He could not predict what the future might hold, but he prayed he would have the strength to follow through on his plan to take all the blame. Detective Sergeant Vizzini was still typing on the same page. The man had to be the slowest typer on the planet. Each labored click was a jarring hammer blow to Griffin's raw nerves. How did I get myself into this? Griffin, came a voice from behind him. Dad was a mess. Pajama top instead of a shirt, sweatpants, slippers, trench coat, bed hair. He had never looked better, not to Griffin. He ran into his father's arms, blubbering like a 2-year-old. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. It's okay, son. But it wasn't okay. It might never be okay. Vizzini pulled the sheet from the new typewriter and placed it on the table in front of Griffin. Sign here at the bottom, son. Griffin backed away from the page like it was a live serpent. A confession? Worse. What does it say? Take it easy, the officer soothed. It's just a statement that you found the baseball card inside the old Rockford house. Griffin was bewildered. What do you need that for? Well, there's a lady in Baltimore named Winifred Rockford Bates. She's 97 years old and she's the last surviving member of the original Rockford family. The card is really hers. So it might be some consolation to you and your friend that Palomino is out of luck. And what happens after I sign? Griffin quavered. Then we go home, Dad said gently. What, go home? Was that even possible? Griffin wheeled to face the sergeant. Really? The Zinni looked stern. I hope you know how lucky you are. Mr. Palomino isn't going to press charges. He wants to avoid an investigation into whether he broke the law when he cheated you. It's a pretty happy ending all around. Probably happier than you deserve. Thanks, officer. Thanks a lot. As he and his father walked to the car, Griffin took note of a slight bite in the early morning air, a hint of the coming winter, or maybe it was just the smell of freedom. He knew full well how close he had come to losing his. Mr. Bing pulled onto the road. Funny way things work out, he commented. Even if Palomino hadn't hoodwinked you into selling this card, it still wouldn't be yours. In the end, it would always belong to that little old lady in Baltimore. Griffin nodded, glum despite his relief. Would have been great, though. $1 million, hundreds of thousands anyway. His father sighed. Maybe it's a sign. Money isn't supposed to be that easy. I don't care about easy money, Griffin mumbled. I just don't want to have to sell our house and move away. Mr. Bing jammed on the brakes and the car screeched to a halt in the middle of the deserted street. We haven't had a chance to tell you yet. Griffin was alarmed. Tell me what? All that publicity with the baseball card has generated a lot of interest into the smart pick. I've got investors who are going to back me through this whole process. Griffin stared at his father. You mean we're not selling the house anymore? We're going to be just fine. All right, we still have one more chapter, 32, and we're going to find out. We're going to tie up all the loose ends. What ends up happening to all these different characters. So, anyway, until next time, have a great day.